Hey, it's Dan Ward with the Key Group at eXp Realty. I'm here today with another great topic that I've been talking with my buyers about quite a bit lately. As you all know, the past couple of years, the real estate market's been pretty crazy. It's been hard for buyers to get in, find the house that they're looking for, to find the features and the qualities that they want in their house. So a lot of homeowners, or a lot of first-time buyers even, are looking at homes that have recently been flipped. Now, that's a term that some people who are new to real estate may not quite understand, but essentially what happens is that investors out there are looking for homes that are distressed or in various states of disrepair. They buy the homes at a fairly reasonable price, they put in the work, and then they put it back on the market and sell it, right? The idea is that they're going to make a profit on the sale. That's fine. That's the business of what these folks do, and this is how they run their business. It's actually great for the local economy. It's great for the neighborhoods because homes that are in disrepair are now getting updates and getting upgraded and can increase home values in a marketplace. But there are a couple things that are really important to look out for when you're buying a flipped house. So what I want to talk to you about today is how to spot a bad flip. There's 5 things to look for to identify a flipped house that may not be up to standards. The first thing I want to talk about is poor finish work. Whether it's cabinets or it's trim or it's electrical plates or sockets, toilets installed or mirrors or lighting or light fixtures. It's one of the quickest giveaways that a flip is done poorly and you may not get the value out of the house, and you'll likely end up with big, costly repairs within the next couple of months of after taking the keys or taking possession of the property. So one of the biggest things you can look out for is poor quality finish work. Cabinet doors that don't align, cabinet doors that aren't tight, drawers that don't close, right? Fixtures that aren't assembled properly. We've seen toilets that are loose off their base. We've seen plumbing that's not connected the proper way. We've seen electrical lines that are run really quick. Contractors use really cheap plumbing materials, ones that probably aren't appropriate for water supply lines. Using PVC for water supply lines is a big no-no. So a lot of that finish trim work will be one of your telltale signs that you're likely looking at a flip that's probably going to cost you more money in the long run. The second biggest item that you can look for on a house that's been flipped for homes that are in markets where they have basements is to look at what the contractor or what the seller has done to the basement. If you see really heavy, thick coats of paint on the walls and the floor, they're probably trying to cover something up, right? There's a likelihood that there may be water issues in the basement, that heavy coats of paint and a fresher paint smell may be trying to hide something that's a problem. Again, you're going to have to rely on your home inspector to give you some advice and to give you some insight on what there potentially could be happening in the basement. But it's one of those things that you should be very much aware of when you're buying a home that's been flipped or freshly remodeled, is to get into the basement, spend some time down there, more than 2 or 3 minutes, more than 3 or 4 minutes, spend a few minutes standing in the basement, looking in the corners, looking up at the ceiling, looking at the floor joists, looking at the plumbing. But the big thing to look out here for is heavy coats of paint on the walls. Now, the paint's not going to cover up everything. It's not going to cover up walls that have structural issues that are bowing or cracking. You'll likely maybe even see homes, especially in our marketplace, there's homes that are built in the 20s, 30s, 40s that have clay block in the basement foundation. Look for shifted block. Look for big cracks or potentially big problems that might be something you shouldn't expect in a freshly remodeled house, right? But it may be a sign that somebody's trying to cover something up that you don't want to take ownership of and have to repair. Something you want to avoid, big, heavy, costly expenses of repairing a foundation or repairing a basement wall because it's been covered up by heavy coats of paint. The third item that I see a lot in flips that, for some older homes that have had some settling, maybe some sagging in the floors, it's one of those things that just happens over time. Whether you're a house or you're a person, things eventually start to sag. So, one of the things while you're in the basement to look out for are brand new support beams that have been installed. There's the proper way to install them and there's an improper way to install them. So when you get an opportunity to sit down with your inspector, make sure they're looking at the support beams. Some of them are installed correctly, some of them aren't. But anytime you see a new support beam means there's some indication that the seller was trying to correct something with the property, whether it was a sagging floor or something was sloping. It's something that they're trying to correct. It's an issue that they're trying to correct. So make sure you look for those new support beams in an older home and make sure they're installed correctly. Make sure it's not going to cause any potential structural issues going forward. The fourth big item to look out for when you're looking at a flip property is to go outside, and hopefully you'll be able to see this part of the house. And if you don't, make sure your inspector sees it, but it's to look at the roof. Now, typically you're going to see two different types of shingles that have been installed over the past, 30, 40 years. There's 3-tab shingles and there's architectural types of shingles. Typically, we're seeing mostly architectural style shingles installed in today's market, but you may still see 3-tab shingles. However, the biggest thing to look out for is when somebody who's flipping a house that's trying to do it on a budget and try to make the most amount of money off of that sale may shingle over the last layer. So a double layer of shingles may be a sign that there was potentially a leaking roof beforehand, and it may be a sign that they're trying to cover up something. It is a little bit more expensive to do a complete tear off and re-shingle and properly, or at least to make sure that the sheeting and all the ice coatings are, to make sure the sheeting is up to date and make sure that the sheeting doesn't have any water damage or any structural issues. Also, putting up the right protection on the roof line before the shingling goes down is important to do. So that's one of the biggest areas you can take a look at as a buyer of a home that's recently been remodeled or flipped, is to step back and take a look at the roof line. Your home inspector should be able to get on the roof and do a very thorough inspection of the flashing, and should be able to see if you have one or two, and in some cases we've even seen 3 layers of shingles on the roof, and that can cause problems down the line with insurability, and most definitely going to be an expensive repair years, maybe within the next 3 months, maybe 6 months, maybe a year or two down the line, but it's an expensive repair for you to have to take over ownership of the property and then be the one that's responsible for replacing a roof that you just moved into. The fifth biggest sign that you may be buying a house that hasn't been flipped properly is when there's heavy coats of paint on everything, and we see it a lot. There's imperfections in the walls, there's imperfections in the cabinets, and typically what's going on there is somebody's trying to hide a cosmetic issue or potentially even a bigger structural issue. So if you see heavy coats of paint on all the trim, on all the walls, on the ceiling's been retextured, right? There could be a sign that maybe the ceiling is cracking, maybe some of the plaster is disconnecting from the lathe, right? And starting to drop down. That can be hidden with heavy coats of paint. And so if you start seeing heavy coats of paint all over the place in the house, it probably means that you should take the time to step back and reevaluate the house in its entirety. Now, one of the biggest things that you should think about too, one of the things to consider as you take a look at all these components, is the overall price to value of the property, right? If you're getting the property at a fair price and some of these things are known, or maybe potentially known issues that you can budget for or have budgeted for to repair or to upgrade or to update after you've taken ownership of the property, then that's something to think about. But for most of our first-time homeowners who are looking to stretch the dollars that they have available to them to work within their budget and work within their pre-approval, sometimes flipped homes are a great opportunity to buy an older home that has some nice new features, some nice new cosmetic updates, maybe some new appliances, has the bedroom count that you're looking for, the square footage, and is in the right location. Some of the flipped homes are great. There's some fantastic work that's being done out there. There's some amazing century homes that have been remodeled the right way and can offer tremendous value to buyers. However, there are guys out there and there are companies out there that may not be doing it the best way possible, and we just want to help make sure that our buyers are educated and they know what they're buying. So hopefully that was helpful. If you liked the video, like and subscribe. Stick around for some more. We've got some really good buyer tips, good seller tips. And again, thank you.